And I believe we are officially live on the Asmodee Twitch streaming channel. Hello everybody, my name's James. If you came in and tuned a few weeks back for the Scythe stream that we did, then you might be familiar with the face and the beard. More the beard than anything else, I imagine. And I am very lucky to be joined by Alexis today, who is immediately below me right here, from Luckyhammer, which is the guys behind Terraforming Mars, which is what we are going to be dealing with today. Alexis, thank you so much for joining me today.
Sure thing, man. Pleasure's all mine, and I have to apologize. Like, my beard used to be, I guess, more like up to par with yours.
Well, no, but you've got the richness of color, my friend. Mine's a little bit on the pale side. You've gone for that deep noir. It's very strong.
Correct.
It's good work.
Yeah.
I like it. Now,
Thank you.
What we'll be doing, if you're familiar with the previous stream that we did, if you're like into this whole board game thing and you keep an eye on the Asmodee channel, last time it was just me on my own kind of solo mansplaining the whole side thing and how it runs and works. Now this is going to be a little bit easier for me today and a little bit more fun as well, because I'm going to be having Alexis here, who's part of the Luckyhammer team, and he is going to be kind of answering my questions as I go through, because as always I'm no expert on this game, and obviously he is much more of one, so he can explain why they did certain things while we're also explaining the game if you're not familiar with it at all. But there's a good chance that if you're watching and you've tuned in, maybe you like the original board game when it came out and you're interested to see what changes they've made for this digital version. So we're going to try and cover all the bases loosely over the next hour or so.
And just to make this clear, because I'm going to jump on something you said, I will not make it easier for you.
No?
You said that, but that's absolutely not my...
Not true at all. You're just going to...
Not my plan at all.
You'll shoot me down at every turn. Good to know. And one thing we should say, it says so in the title right there before we start, but I'm going to highlight it with my mouse here. This is a pre-alpha build we are working off at the moment. So this is quite early in the polishing period of the game. So we're not even an alpha or beta or anything. Pre-alpha. So this is a little chunk of the game that we're going to show you today, just to give you a feel for the direction in which it's going, and obviously there will be plenty of tweaks and changes between now and the time the game is actually released. Important to stress that stuff.
Yes, well said, well said.
So I'm just gonna choose AI medium, might as well, and I'm going to create a game before we start. So if you are not familiar with the game at all, it's an engine building game, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's the dream of turning Mars into something proper, like another
something
Earth.
habitable.
We could plunder, habitable.
Exactly.
Something else we could exploit until the end of time. So you're competing with other corporations, of course, because corporations own the future, as we all know, and then but you're trying to be the best one in working the terraforming of the planet.
Exactly. And in this case, you've got the good side, which is we're terraforming Mars and turning it into something habitable, but we are obviously playing a massive corporation, and it's a battle of the corporations on this one. So you can choose different corporations to start with. I am running with the default, which is called Beginner Corporation, which basically just starts them up with 42 monies. We call it just monies, whatever you call them.
You can call them meta credits.
Meta credits, we're going to go with that. Cool, that works for me too.
But I like monies. Monies with a Z is a cool way to say it too.
I've heard lots of different people calling it different things, so we'll start with meta credits then. If you choose different corporations, other ones have specific specialities, so you'll get certain perks for choosing, for example, the United Nations Mars or the Inventrix, and you can, pick and choose depending on what your playstyle is going to be. But we'll start with the default one, which is just Beginner Corp. Now, often what that means is you get a chance to choose up to 10 cards from a deck that's kind of randomly thrown at you at the beginning of the game. Now, in this one, you just get given them. The Beginner Corporation, you're handed 10 cards automatically, aren't you? So you don't need to...
Yeah, it's meant to be less of a hassle to maybe you don't know what you're looking for. And just the fact that the corporation is not inclined into a specific gameplay type, it makes it easier for people to discover, but it's still balanced in a way that a lot of people keep on playing the Beginner Corp anyways, because it's a valid choice. Like, you got to keep in mind, in the game there's like 12 different corporations plus the Beginner Corp, so depending on what's drawn out, you might decide to pick it anyways.
Gotcha. So instead of choosing cards for this one, we've already got some pre-selected down here in the middle of the screen, as you can see. And this is what we're given. We're given this starting page. Now, this is Mars. And as you can see, it's split up into a number of hexes. I can push in here using the zoom, and you can see some of them have actual icons built on them. Now the idea is what we're trying to do is take care of a few metrics to monitor on the right hand side of the screen. So if you look over the right here, you can see that there is a water indicator down the bottom here, which is currently setting at 0 of 9. So there are 9 water tiles that we can create over the course of the game. There is also a temperature metric, a bar up here, and there is also a oxygen one. Now the temperature can be raised by using our resources down here at the bottom. There's a heat resource at the bottom of the screen where my arrow is right now. And also the oxygen one can be raised by doing things like building greenery, as it's called. So you drop tiles which are lush, verdant land. And by using the water and raising the temperature and dropping greenery, you are effectively making the planet livable and creating an atmosphere, which is the overall kind of goal of the game. Specifically, you want to do it first, before your opponent. Now,
Yes.
it's given me a choice of you get 2 action points per turn, and then you get, how many turns is it per generation? Do you know?
It's basically the whole game is built around the idea of managing your action economy, if you will, because you get to play twice before the other players go, but then everyone keeps doing that until everyone passes. Because at some point you'll see either you don't have enough resources left, or you don't have any cards left, or you've got nothing else to do during that generation, and then you wait for everyone to pass. Then generation changes, which is when we'll see you get sort of a production step where you get stuff back in order to spend in the next generation. So you're going to play a certain number of generations, and the games vary in length depending on how players play. But you can expect anywhere between 10 and 20 generations, for example, depending on how many players you have and how they play. Yeah.
So what we're aiming to do, as I say, is we want to grow some greenery and drop it down. Now you need 8 of these little plant resources down here in order to create a greenery tile. Likewise, you need, I think it's 8 as well, 8 heat resources in order to bump the temperature up a few degrees.
Yeah, that's actually a side effect. If you open up the standard projects on top of the screen, these are like sort of the basic actions that you can play with even if you have no cards, for example. And this is where you can spend just hard money and try to get things done. Like you said, if you do manage to collect plants and heat, you could convert them into tiles as well. But so I guess a basic way to go around is using the standard projects as the core mechanic for the game. So whether it's building a city, a greenery, placing a water tile, etc.
So we can go ahead just to show you what it looks like. I've got 42 meta credits down here. And this gives me my bank balance, if you like. And over here, we've got the option to sell something. They're called patents, but they're the cards that we have. So you can discard cards and you'll get a meta credit back if you decide to drop them. Each of the cards has a value that you need to purchase in order to use the card. And there are 3 different types, but we'll get to that in a bit. We're going to start just to show you what building greenery looks like on Mars. So if I hit use over here, it says, do you want to build greenery? I certainly do. And then it will give me an option to place this wherever I want. Now, if I place this tile, the greenery tile, on a tile which has some little icons on it, I will get whatever resource is on that tile. So we've got the options here for the greenery, which is just obviously the leaves as they're presented. We've got these little hammers, which represent steel, so I can pop those down as well. The stars are titanium, and all these are used for different things. Titanium pays for space cards, for example, while steel is used for building cards, so you need to select each resource for each individual card if you want to use it. I'm going to drop it straight down onto a greenery card here. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see now we have a nice little mountain surrounded by trees and whatnot, and it's all animated and moving, and leaves are blowing off into the distance. And I was saying to you earlier, it all looks really nice.
Yeah, you almost want to visit that single spot, maybe not around it though.
Yeah, it's properly interactive. So you'll see by my doing that, the little metric below my camera, immediately below me on the screen, where it says U there, for the beginner, has jumped from 20 to 21. So I have gotten points for doing that, A point specifically. And the idea is you want to keep that going up and up and up, and certain actions you perform will increase that score. And ideally you want to have as high a score as possible. So that's one of my 2 actions I can take this turn. Now I can skip, I can just move on to the next turn, or I can have a look at my cards or other standard projects and decide what I want to do. So looking at the cards I have, just take a wee look. I can't afford some of these because you can see their value is in the top left-hand corner. The effects are described, so I can click on any of them. So for example, this cartel card, and it will tell me what it does. So it says it will increase your metacredits production 1 step for each Earth tag that you have, including this one. So you'll notice down in the sort of bottom right side of the screen there are a few UI bits here. So card resources is one, tags is another. And as you decide to play cards and as you upgrade certain aspects, you'll gain tags based on which kind of resource, which kind of card you're playing, and you can see attached to the top of these cards what they look like, the little circular doodads at the top here. So from your perspective, we were discussing this earlier as well, there are a lot of different ways you can play the game. Because these engine building games open it up to say, what do you want to do? Do you want to build a load of cities? Do you want to build a load of greenery? Do you want to focus on biology or research? Like, what do you find is a good piece of advice for people who are getting into this kind of game for the first time?
Yeah, that's a really hard one because obviously, like, you might get a plan. Even if you're playing one of the more specific corporations, you may have a starting plan where you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna go this way or that way. But the reality is, you also need to work with whatever cards you end up having as a purchase opportunity, because some of them will have, not only do they provide tags, but a lot of them have requirements. Either the water level needs to be a specific thing, or it needs to be not too hot or not too cold on the planet, or you need like 6 science tags, and then you get a bunch of cards that you can't play because you haven't gone that way. So whatever plan you have, you will need to readjust as the game goes along. So the reality, and that's why I think it's such a great game for its genre, is that there's no single way to play this game. Like, players will change ideas all the time across the game, and that's usually where you see a good player is they're going to plan ahead, and they're not going to lose so many actions going back and forth between ideas that are sort of half-baked all the time. And then because someone might try to block you or like see that you're going for a specific thing, and then they might try to play on the same sort of like a lot of these Civ building games, right? If you have 2 players that are min-maxing the same game pool, it usually fails. So the same is true for this game, I think.
Gotcha.
So you need to stay agile a bit. Whenever you purchase cards, make sure you keep different options, at least 2 or 3 different paths open, even if at the end you don't pursue all of them. And because otherwise, if you go too far in a certain direction and it closes on you, then that's not going to work.
So just as an example of what Alexis was talking about there, this card here, which is Beam from a Thorium Asteroid, which will give you an additional 3 heat and an additional 3 energy as well. But you need at least 1 Jovian tag, it says down here in this little white line. So I won't be able to use that at the minute because I do not have one of those right now. So that's kind of out of my reach. There are also, we mentioned there are different types of cards. We should address the colors here. So the green cards, which are they the most common? I see a lot of them, but they're the ones that have like a sort of long-lasting effect, aren't they? Generally speaking,
right? There are a lot about development, and you'll see very often the blue cards are like sort of like, I guess, grander or weirder projects or things that are wider scale. So greens you'll see very often, and the reds tend to have interaction on the play itself. I don't know if you have any.
I'm not sure
right
how
now
many.
In your hand.
They're often quite aggressive. I've found.
Yeah, they might impact the Mars itself and other players at the same time. So they're less about development.
So I'm going to increase my energy production. So I'm going to try and do what I can. As you can see at the bottom here, it's got a list of the resources that I currently have, which isn't much because we're at the beginning here. So I've currently got 2 plants, and as you say, I can convert those to 8 if I wish. Once they reach 8, convert it into a bit of greenery if I like. But at the top here, you can see a number above it in a kind of brownish bar. This is like a modifier that will, whenever we go to the production round, it'll kind of increase and give me a little bit extra than I would otherwise get.
Yeah, so you see your production bar, and then underneath you see your sort of your reserve of a given resource. So you might gain resource by a card or by playing a tile, but then you might also want to, as the game progresses, increase your production itself, because that's still the sort of the surest way to get a resource in, is to actually produce it.
Sure,
right?
sure. So we'll address this at the top as well, because we need to play these early if we're going to get them cheap. You got, besides the standard projects, which is kind of, as Alexis said, the main bulk of actions, kind of the default actions you can take during the game, there are two more that go with it. So one of them is milestones. And what that means is at a certain point during the game, you may find you hit one of these milestones. So for example, the Terraformer rating, which is the number that's next to my name, currently sitting at 21. Once that hits 25, I can pay 8 of my meta credits, and I will get a little prize, a 5 victory point prize, won't I? That's what I get for each one.
Yeah, and basically that's a race, and again, it's about investing your actions properly, because you need to reach certain milestones, and then you need to spend resources and actions to claim a milestone for yourself. So you're basically telling everyone else, my corporation is, for example, I'm a mayor because I was the first to build 3 cities and claim the milestone, because you could still have reached a milestone, but you need to go in and claim that for yourself, and there's a certain number of milestones that can be claimed throughout the game. So it's something, and it's planning ahead for the end game, because these are basically worth victory points that you're stacking in the hopes that they're going to make a difference once the reckoning come and the final count is made.
As you say, you don't get them automatically. You have to go and grab them and remember to do so.
Yeah. Correct, and invest resources and actions in order to do it. And I guess a different twist on it are the awards, where you're basically investing in something that you hope you win.
Yes, it's kind of putting a play down saying, I will, and then you have to pay again to use it. The Landlord Award. You're basically funding an award ceremony for yourself in the future, which you predict that you will win.
Correct. Yeah, and based on your position on that specific award, then you might get points, or you like again. Imagine a game with 5 players, which is the maximum that will be available in the game. Putting awards up is tricky, because like you might do this early on for some reason, and you might completely lose that race, and you invested your money and actions to potentially give points to someone else.
Yes, so it may backfire horribly if you don't get it right. So again, you need to have a plan in place for that to work. So I've only got 6 meta credits at the minute. I don't think I can really afford to do anything else here. So
no, that would be very cocky. That would be very cocky to claim awards early on.
So I'm going to end my turn here and let the second player take over. So they do their thing. You do see at the bottom of the screen the UI switches to the enemy player, so you can actually see what they're doing. You get a few little updates there. Again, we were talking about that beforehand. I understand you're going to be perhaps increasing the amount of you see from your enemies when they are taking their turn, because I know that's something that people like to have the option, if they want to, be able to watch blow by blow what they do.
Yeah, for sure. Because like for a game like this, the hard thing is that you're not around a table and you're not screaming at your friends. Well, I mean, not in person.
No.
Or you might play a mix of AI and friends and whatnot. And so it's a very sort of a menu heavy game, obviously, because you're interacting with all these different boxes and zones. So we worked a lot, and people know the game will notice, especially the cards. We did a lot of work on the way we treat the information, and we broke the card into their bits and try to make it into a digital space that is different from the board game. And so every step of the way we felt needs to feel sort of engaging and sort of visually pleasing. But it's very important. In the end, the only thing you're doing as a player is you're clicking a button, going yes, right over here, and then you want something great to happen. Sometimes it might be a basic action, but some of them are pretty important. And then so for the alpha, the focus is to have everything in the game, so every sort of game flow, all the animations, everything going on. And then yes, we will polish sort of the quality of the feeling you get whenever you are performing something. I want it to feel like you feel rewarded, and the sequence is clear as well. Like you click this, you get +1 here, you get +2 here, then something happens, and then you get like a strong sense. You see this in the production step that you just went through. There's a basic there showing you this is how much you gained, and then you see everything like sort of happening, and then you pick your cards and whatnot. So that's what the game is. So every step along the way needs to feel impactful and special, like when you're doing something. right?
Absolutely.
And that's a big challenge for a game like this.
So having taken the turns, both of us, you've been back and forth through a few turns, and now it's changed a generation, which literally is skipping like a generation in game time. So the idea is this is taking place over decades of gameplay. So now
which will probably be the case once we start actually terraforming Mars.
Yeah. It's not going to be an overnight thing. Whatever the Genesis project in Wrath of Khan told you, it's not going to be like that. So when that happens, everyone gets their credits are kind of replenished based on the points that they currently have. So that gets stacked up. And we also get a choice of another 4 cards. You can buy up to 4 cards at a cost of 3 meta credits each. We don't have to. We can just look at them and see if there's anything that we find interesting. If not, and this is something that's worth considering because, again, some cards to be able to use immediately, some cards you can only use late in the game based on like, I need, say, 7 tags of different types and I need a certain amount and the temperature needs to be above -7 degrees. So you kind of really have to think in advance of like, do I want to play this now? Am I keeping this for later? And what's the point of buying it? Am I ever going to use it?
Yeah, and it's a hard choice as well because the game has not in this current build, but the final game will have all of the 208 cards that the board game has, and they come through every turn, and you get through them. You can get through them pretty quickly, and you need. Obviously, knowing the cards in advance or a bit of a strategy really makes a difference for an experienced player because then, like you were saying, you need to plan a few generations ahead sometimes, or like seeing a card and going, this card is too good that I need to risk buying it now because then I'll only regret it later if I haven't picked it up. So
gotcha. So what we've done there is I've used the aquifer, so I've actually created some water, and again, if I zoom in, you can see quite a nice ripply effect on the old water there. A little bit fancier than just a static tile like you get on the board game, but same effect. So that's now planted down. And you can see it now that the temperature and the oxygen is starting to creep up on the right-hand side of the screen here. And you can see what the sweet spots are. Because when you look at the board game, it gives you the actual science behind it as well. You can read up on like the reason we've chosen this temperature and this amount of O2 level and whatnot is because that's what we would need to make Mars habitable. So it is based in actual science, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually on that front, it's interesting to know that the Frixelius brothers that are behind this game, they're quite nerdy about it all, rightly. Like they went. There's a fantasy aspect to the game, and there's some humor behind it, especially if you start looking into the cards. Like they're a funny bunch for sure. But the game is kind of it's anchored on a lot of the actual science and sort of like this sort of a futurology and prospection aspects that we may have about Mars. And I think that's a strong appeal for the game. Is you get the feeling that it could be like this could represent sort of a simplified version of the challenges that we have if we ever do decide to do it. Yeah.
So I've just used a cartel card here, which based on the number of Earth tags that I have, it gives me a little bonus for it. So if I show you the tags over here, you've got building, space, power, earth, and plant. These are the tags that I've accumulated. And again, when you look at the cards, you can see those tags represented in the top corners if I open one here, so you can see what you will get if you decide to use one of these cards. And again, this is another thing you want to be keeping track of in your head, so there's a lot to sort of micromanage while you're thinking about what you're doing. Just to show you guys what that looks like, I'm going to use an asteroid this turn, which is going to raise the temperature by 1 step, and that will cost me 14, so I'm going to hit that. Do I want to crash an asteroid? There is only one acceptable answer to that question. Of course it is yes.
Of course I do.
What do you take me for? And here you can see the temperature's just pumped up quite a few degrees there over on the right-hand side. So we are gradually getting there. No actions left, so I'm going to hit turn over. Now the enemy's taken his turn and we're back to me. Now I have 0 credits left at this point. I have spent all my meta credits, so there's not a great deal I can do. Some cards you can actually pay to give yourself additional actions, which is nice. On top of the standard projects, you'll get like an action that you can then sort of keep, and then every time it turns over and you get new generations, they become active again. So here I have the option, thanks to the Space Mirrors card I played, to spend 7 meta credits and increase my energy by 1 step. I've got no cash right now to do it with, but that's something I will be able to do in future. So it's like bolting on an additional action to your projects list, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, so that's why we split. If you look down, like we try to make all the production, sort of your economy aspect on the left of the cards, and on the right we sort of refurbished and reorganized some of the information that you find in the board game, so that you could basically look at your tags. Again, if you created more actions throughout cards, a reminder of the victory points that are not yet scored on your terraforming rating on the left, but points that you will get at the end of the game based on the known data, like cards you've played, for example, and things like that. So you can sort of keep track, and you can do this, by the way, for other players. If you click on their little name on the left, you can see their interface.
Yes.
And then you can try to understand what they're doing. If you missed maybe earlier some of their moves, you can look at their production and try to guess like what are they trying to do. And so you don't get like the full information. You need to pay attention as the game goes along, but you do get some tools to sort of track the current economy of everyone.
Absolutely. And this little mark, you can see these kind of brown circles, like coins with the numbers on the left-hand side of the card. These are the victory points that will get stashed down here. And as Alexis said, they're not immediately added to the points next to your corporation name tag, but they will sit here in a little kitty and then get thrown on once the game is over. So if I were to use this Tropical Resort chord, I would bank 2 victory points down here. In the bottom right for use later. Now, we mentioned the different coloured cards. Here's a red card that we've got here, which is a virus. So this, as you mentioned, is a very cheap card to play, and you get a couple of tags for it, a little biology cell tag there. But what it allows you to do is remove up to 2 animals or 5 plants from any player. So you get to strip an opponent of some of their resources. It even lets you do it to you if you want to, though I don't know why you would want to. But you
there's some crazy interactions you might play with
if you feel like it. So I am just for the fun of it, I'm going to purchase that and hold on to it because it's a very cheap card that might come in handy later. So that costs me 3 points, and as you can see, my meta credits have been replenished here, and I'm up to 28. Sorry, I'm up to 21. My enemy is up to 28. And as Alexis said, I can just click on my enemy, and this is their tile set down the bottom, so we can see what cash they've got, what resources they currently have available to them, which is useful for holding on. And obviously, if there's more enemies, you'll get more of those wee icons at the side to click on.
Yeah.
Now then, I've got 21 points, which means I'm going to drop some... Oh, can't quite drop some greenery. That would have been good. But I'm only 2 resources away down the bottom here from converting them into greenery if I want to. So all's not lost. Let me check out my cards. So we've got
surely you have something good to play.
Surely, I know. We've got a very expensive one, the beam from a thorium asteroid, but that's not affordable right now. I can do the virus, and I could rob him of his... Let's have a look. How much greenery? He's got 4 greenery. I might do that, just for fun. Seeing as I've purchased it, it's only cheap. He'll use one of my turns, so I can play this. Do I want to play virus? Yes, I do. So I can either remove 2 animals or use the 5... remove the 5 greenery tags. I'm going to do that, so confirm. That's my choice. And I'm going to choose Credit Core, which is my opponent, and take him down to 0. So confirm. Bam. And if we click on our enemy, we can see now that's gone down to 0, so he has lost a bunch of resources because I was feeling mean. Now,
it's not you, it's the virus. I mean, that's what you get when you're playing with life on a new planet. Like,
it's true. That's a good way of reframing it. You're right. I don't feel a shred of guilt for this. They clearly had it coming. They should have used more antibacterial hand wash.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? So we've got a quantum extractor here. This one requires at least 4 science tags in order to use. I don't think I have that available to me right now. Same with the anti-gravity tech. You need 7. But it's a really useful card by the look of it. Whenever you play a card, you pay fewer one meta credit less for it, which is kind of cool, but you need a lot of science to pull that off. I could strip mine, but again, I don't really have the money. So what I might do here, having played that card, is use my remaining turn action point in order to aquify, because we still only got 1 water at the minute. So let's build an aquifer and drop a water tile down. So here you go. It's going to let me choose where I want to place it. I'm going to place it here where there is 2 greenery points, and that will be added, as you can see right here, bam, to my stockpile. And now you see this option has just popped up above my greenery stockpile on the bottom. This means I can convert those plant resources into a greenery tile if I want to, because I've got a load of plants. I'm going to assume seeds, plants, whatever it might be.
Plants, yeah.
I can then throw at Mars's surface and establish another one of these greenery hexes, which I think I will do just to show you guys what it looks like. That is what I'm aiming for at the moment, lots of greenery. So do I want to convert 8 plants to a greenery? Yes, I do. And then again, it will just give me the options of where I can place it. And I'm going to pop it right here. If I zoom in, you can see it all sprouting there. Very nice. So
just saying, at some point you'll have to build a city. I'm just saying, because you're not like, I feel like you're doing a bunch of forests, but you're not really contributing to the
to the actual living situation for people. That's fair. Okay, we'll put something together for a city at some point. So we'll need to get.
And plus, they look really nice too. So I'm just saying.
They do.
And you might want to get them close, like surrounded by greeneries, and they're worth their weight in victory points as well. So.
Absolutely. So we've got.
Because I feel you're doing a bit of the hippie player here. Like you're not.
I kind of am. I'm looking at it as this oasis which I'm going to create for myself. It's just going to be
this doesn't work.
One tent, and it's just going to have me in it, and that's it. This is a purely selfish game that I'm playing. Excellent.
Yeah.
So we've got only four credits left. So I'm going to skip the turn here. Move on to the next player. So we're 24-26. He's got 2 on me at the minute. And as Alexis says, we'll skew things towards buildings now. We'll look to get some of those out.
Just suggesting.
It's all right. He wants somewhere to live. I understand. It's only fair. So we'll need 25 meta credits to build a city, which we will be able to do, I think, on the next generation. We'll be able to sort that out.
Right.
And also we get to show you what it looks like, which is kind of the point of all this. So if people have played the board game before, you've already mentioned that there are a few differences in the way, for example, some of the cards are laid out. What's the most obvious difference you see when you look at the board game versus the digital version we're playing?
I mean, I guess a key difference is because of the digital, because of all the UI and the UX, the way you interact and touch the components is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like for the cards are a good example, because the direction we had was that all the art you see on the cards is the original one from the board game, and we like the idea of redesigning the card as a component, but we by also keeping the original art. So we only have this sort of like these scan lines, and we broke the information, but we want people to recognize, because some of these arts are pretty iconic. Some of them, by the way, have a lot of the Frixelius brothers on the cards.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. They're a funny bunch, and they pose for their cards, and they Photoshop themselves in and stuff like that. And so we kept all of that, and we just want the card as a game object to be sort of reorganized, and the way things will break away from the cards and drop down on the UI and things like that. That's obviously a different game flow and something new.
Yeah.
But I mean, aside from that, it's just made to look like this sort of retro futurist holographic art direction, but of the same game. Like it should feel like it's the same game, but it's made just like it's made simpler to play, simpler to manage. Like all the upkeep and all the sort of handling the board itself is made to be simpler, so the games are shorter.
Absolutely.
For the same kind of game. But otherwise, it should feel like it's pretty much the same thing. So someone that knows the game already is going to jump in, and then like basically it's going to be super easy for them to adapt.
So
to the and keeping on and keeping all the icons the same. Like I'm thinking. By the way, I keep saying meta credits, but it's mega credits.
Mega.
Right?
Okay. Right.
Yeah. But But keeping the same icons for the mega credits for all the resources, while trying to polish them, giving them a bit of a feel that goes along with the art direction. So
So I'm 1 mega credit away from being able to afford the city this time, as it turns out. So next generation, I reckon, will be able to take care of that. Now, I have the option down here. I've got the ability to raise heat. Now, I can convert the heat resources, again, just to show you guys what that looks like. Do you want to convert 8 heat to increase the temperature? So I can take that resource and channel it into the heat. And if you look over here to the right-hand side of the screen, we have bounded up another few degrees over on that side, which is good. And also, it didn't cost me any actual credits, just resources for that one. So that's a useful action you can take. And I'm going to use this card, this red card that I got, allow to me to release inert gases. which raises my terraforming stat up by 2, which is useful at the moment because that's exactly how many stats I am behind right now. So I'm going to throw that up there, and then next generation we'll get some buildings going. So we're now 27 all, thanks to those cards.
Yeah, but be careful. Like, that rating is only but a parcel of the final points. And I've seen people trail behind, and no one's paying attention. And then they're stacking sort of victory points on cards, or like they have different effects that interact with one another, and then they get to the final count, and oops, you get trampled. Yeah.
So it's kind of
that's a classic.
It reflects a few things. Mainly that stat here kind of reflects basically how much greenery you've got down. The water affects it as well. They always add 1 too, so it affects very directly the terraforming stuff that you're doing. But it doesn't account for, as you say, all the extraneous effects and modifiers that's going on as well. So can be misleading.
Oh yeah, it will for sure. But that's the whole point. Like, you want the information to be partial, and if you forget, there's a mental sort of bandwidth that is taken throughout the game, and you keep on forgetting stuff, and then someone is in your that angle, and you get beaten at the points at the very last second.
Yeah. So I've played a media group card there, which gives me additional. I think I get additional credits when effect things are played, which is kind of handy. Again, that's a long-term thing that hopefully starts to pay off. I can skip this action and end the turn, and I think. Don't know if this is going to be the next rollover for the generation. Let's find out. So I've only got 4 mega credits left. I don't think I'm really going to be able to do anything. You do have the option, incidentally, I mentioned it before, to sell these cards if you decide that you're never going to use them. They only give you 1 mega credit each, so you don't get this value here. But if they're just taking up space, then there's no harm in offloading some dead weight.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to, because I've only got the 4, I'm going to hold on to those credits so that I can use them next generation in order to get ourselves a city built.
Yeah, you should. This is
important stuff.
Like, you need to be the first one to do it too. There's a moral
imperative.
Yes, I think so. You need to show that AI, like, who's the boss.
Fair enough.
I just love cities. Maybe that's my prerogative. I tend to build cities even if it's not the best thing to do, because I just like how they look, and
I'm getting that vibe. See, little touches to the interface. I know this stuff isn't finished, but I like that when you click on a card to look in, the way it obviously manifests like a hologram, but obviously the bottom of the screen at the center, kind of, there's a projection glow that seems to beam it up there, which is quite nice. And just the little tracking movements that you get, those bars just gradually tracking across the screen. It's kind of nice, because otherwise these things can be very static, can't they?
Yeah, that's the problem. Again, it's when you have a game that is built around interacting with menus, which is fine. That's the mechanic, but you want to make sure that you get something more out of it. And obviously, for us to amplify the visuals of the original game was a key mission. And again, like, if we reinventing some of the game spaces mean we need to break away from the physical component in terms of the visual language, so that using the whole holographic look allowed us to say, look, this is something new, something different than what you're used to in the board game itself.
Okay, so we're about to make Alexis very happy by making him his very own condo on the surface of Mars. So here we go. Right. Now, again, I can place this anywhere, pretty much anywhere, actually, on the board. I'm going to drop it near these bits of greenery. In fact, I can I can choose to put it here and have it immediately next to both some water and greenery, so it would be quite a scenic place to live. But if I drop it down here, I get more resources, so I end up with more greenery, which is, also tempting. So if I drop it here, you can see a city emerge quite literally from the surface of the planet. And here, if I go right in close, you can see it's a little like biodome.
Yeah. Well, it's not the planet is not safe yet, right? No. And yes, you were mentioning about your placement. That is a good placement, but keep in mind also that at the end, every city is worth. You get extra points for each adjacent greenery. So you do want, even though it would look nice, it would be great next to the ocean or whatever. But you want it surrounded by actual workable forests and whatnot. Yeah.
So that gives us a nice bonus. So
that's fine.
We got that dropped in. And we've got 5 credits left over. I don't think I can afford... No, I can't afford anything on the cards right now, so I'm going to be skipping this turn. Bosh, there we go.
But it's fine. It's fine because you did the first city. So
Exactly. We're in there. Now,
yeah, you're fine.
One thing to remember, one of the milestones that's always consistent is the number 35. So when your terraforming stat here hits 35, you can go up and claim the terraformer milestone. That's the one that always sticks in my head. Also, if I build one more greenery, I can jump in here and claim the gardener as well. Those will probably be the two that come up quickest. So I've got to try and remember in my own head to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, 5 victory points apiece is not something to spit on. That's
Absolutely
a
not,
pretty decent.
no.
It's a pretty big edge at the end of the game.
That's a good reward. So again, we can't really afford anything here, so we're probably going to be jumping over this term. I could sell a bunch of these and maybe get enough to maybe do the lightning harvest, but I'm going to hold on to the credits for the time being. I'm going to think about the future. Do it.
Yeah, that's the idea.
But one thing we can do, see, so what's your stance then? We've already shown them how you can convert the plant resources into an actual greenery tile. Is it valuable to do that, do you think? Or is it more valuable to have the plant resources, and do they add up at the end of the game as well?
No, you have to look at these two as byproducts of the terraforming itself. Mm-hmm. So basically there are sort of a side way to get free tiles in, so you should absolutely use them. I guess the whole point behind how you use those is that the timing at which you're positioning the tiles might be an issue, right? Depending on who's putting what where.
I see.
But the conversion itself is the main sort of like, that's the most efficient use of those resources. Yeah,
absolutely. So what I'm going to do here is I'm bearing in mind what you told me earlier about the city. So if I drop this next to the city again, we're going to try and create like a little circle, an encampment of greenery around the city, so it has maximum impact in terms of the old victory points there.
Yeah, and also just generally speaking, anyways, the heat, like I was saying, it's a byproduct of your work, and it is only used for that single purpose anyways. Yeah, so it's a matter of, and you want to make sure that you're doing it at the right time to get to the terraforming rating point out of it too. Like if you wait too long and then the temperature is capped, they're no use.
Gotcha. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to skip the next one because I don't really have the credits to do anything else. Enemy takes his turn, and we're back to us. I might wind up passing on this because I don't really think I can afford anything. See, it'll give you the option to sell, as they're called, patents, but they basically represent the cards that you have in your stack. So for the time being, we've collected a few resources now. We've got a bunch of titanium down here. The heat's creeping up as well. So we're going to go ahead and pass and then move on to the next generation. Temperature's climbed right up. We're nearly at minus 10 degrees centigrade. And we're at, is it 3%? 3% oxygen, roughly. And there are 3 of the 9 water tiles that we need. Now, when I was playing this before, obviously I was doing this much quicker when I was by myself, and these things, again, they can look quite intimidating at first, and there's a lot to get your head around, but before long, you really do start going bam, 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 bam through it all pretty fast.
You get through the motions. And also keep in mind, obviously, in the full game, we will have like sort of a first user experience where we're going to be able to teach you some of these things. So you don't. It's actually somewhat easier than even if you were opening up the board game and just trying to understand everything from the get-go. So setting up an AI at easy and then just learning the game makes it much easier, and it makes a quicker progression curve for people to get good at the game.
Gotcha.
Obviously, because it takes less hours.
Yeah. Now, see, you got this action here, the Deimos, I'm going to say, down, which is basically a gigantic chunk of meteorite or asteroid having a huge impact. You bump the temperature right up, you get 4, I think that's steel there, and also 8 of the greenery resources. So you get the option to remove, rather, up to 8 plants from any player from this. But it's a very expensive action, this one. It's 31.
Well, you can tell by looking at the art.
Yes, it suggests that. It's pretty impactful as a card.
And I love that. I love if you look at the flavor text for that one, which is always written like below the card itself.
Yeah, we do.
And it says we don't use that moon anymore. Anyways, so
nice touch. And you've got this plantation option here, which is kind of a good one. You need to have 2 science tags, but basically it means that you get an additional greenery tile and you bust up the oxygen a step as well. So that's kind of cool. And it's expensive, but it's not ridiculously. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that one because it's nice to have. And go. So each of those 4 cards, if you choose to have them, costs 3 mega credits each, if you choose to get them. Right then, they've taken their turn, and here we go. So, we have the option here. We've got 33 mega credits. I can build greenery. I can build another city. So with the cities...
Decisions.
I know, right? Is it useful to have the cities adjacent as well, or are they ideally kind of separate and surrounded by...
Well, if you mouse over any sort of a standard project, you'll get a tooltip on the right, and then you'll see basically it's gonna give you some information on how it would be best for you to use it. So essentially for the cities, if you're looking for victory points, you're better to get surrounded by greeneries.
Yeah. So it's one victory point at the end of the game for each adjacent greenery tile, regardless of the owner. So it could be your enemies and it wouldn't matter. You still profit.
That's it. Which is why, again, based on timing, if someone is building up greeneries and you time yourself right, up a city at the right location, you're benefiting from the other player's action in a way.
Nice. That's sneaky. I like that.
It's all about timing all the time, right?
Okay, so I might go ahead. Oh, should I? I should maybe dump another city and then focus on the greenery. So if I dumped a city over here in this kind of this area there, I have the option for either the enemy to start building them or me to start building them up. That might work. It's tempting. Could do something with this dead area over here. Claim it as my own.
Yeah, well, and you're having an easy time now, because if you were playing a game with 5 players, for example, obviously the whole placement issue becomes much more of an important aspect of the game, whereas right now it's you get more leeway on the way you're placing things, and the AI right now is not putting priority on placing tiles so much either, so it makes it easier for you to sort of like shop around and just do as you want.
Because the board would fill up pretty quick if there were lots of us.
Yeah, and you get a plan, and you're thinking of the future and trying to like sort of do your little urban planning, and then the other players just jump in, and things can get pretty messy.
Gotcha. So I've popped that over there. I've chose that area because there are still tiles here which offer quite a lot of resources, so there's incentive for both me and my opponent to put the greenery here to maximize their own resources out off the back of it. So hopefully they'll go for it, or if not, I will go for it in future turns.
Yeah, it's good either way, because you're going to get the points for the city, whatever
Absolutely.
happens.
And because of all this, the byproduct of all my actions, I have generated enough heat to increase the temperature of the planet as well. So I've just chosen that option there, and bam, we're up to maybe -7 or so over there. So things getting
it's much better than Montreal most of the year, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we just had, because we're in the UK, we just caught that is it Storm Emma that crept up, so we got that weird unseasonal snow. There you go. In fact, exactly what I hoped would happen has happened. So my enemy has decided to chuck a bit of greenery up immediately next to my new city. So yes, they've got the resources, but also I'm getting additional victory points for that.
Yeah, everyone's winning, right? That's
handy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's open free market for you.
I know, right? So I've got the option now. I've got 8 mega credits left. Do I have anything on these cards that would be useful for me? So I do have one that costs 8, the Lightning Harvest. But I need at least 3 science tags. I'm going to guess I don't currently have those. Let me check my tags. Science, no. Earth power, space building. Not much in the way of science. So we're not going to be able to play that for the minute. By the way, what happens is you can choose it, and it's not going to mess up. If you hit use, it will say like this: you do not fulfill the requirements to play this card. So it'll give you a fair warning. You're not going to waste any credits buying something you can't use. In which case, I'm going to put these to one side for the time being, and we're going to go ahead and pass to the next generation. I've built my city. Job done. Now it's the grey players. So what's the maximum number of players? Is it 5 can take place?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So in the final game, as up to 5 players, we do also have the solo mode that is the same than you would have in the board game, and you can play local multiplayer or online multiplayer.
Okay.
So you do get like quite a few options on how you want to do this, and obviously the whole point being that if you do play with 4 other non-AI humans, non-cyborg friends, you don't need to be sitting down for a continuous session of whatever 3 or 4 hours, because you can have a synchronous
the asynchronous
game.
Play where you can just send a turn and back and forth.
Yeah, that's it. Right. So you don't get so many excuses to not be playing, not having some friends in and playing. Yeah, because it makes it much easier. Like obviously organizing, like anyone like me with kids and work and stuff, and I'm always trying to organize these longer games, and it's obviously hard. But you got no good excuse for this one.
Makes sense. Yeah. So I've bought one of those action cards. It's quite an expensive one. But it is kind of cool. So, where is it? It'll be up here in my stash now. They are towing a comet. I like this one.
Yeah, the name is great.
By error breaking, we get its contents without the impact. So you get bonus oxygen, you get bonus water, and you also get 2 greenery stocks. So it gives you quite a lot. It's expensive, but it's kind of cool. Right.
And you will notice on the right panel of some of these cards, you can sort of decrease the cost in credits by using some of the resources you have stashed.
That's right.
So depending if it's a space card or a building card and such, you might end up using titanium or steel, like it's proposed, and it's going to make it cheaper on the credit side. Gotcha. So sometimes that's a good. It's for you to decide what you do with the resources.
So that's a handy thing. It says just here the slider on the right. You do have the option to modify it. Do a little bit of bartering, or chuck in some steel if you knock it down a bit. So we're going to go ahead here. We're 1 resource away on the greenery from building more of that. I can build another city. I think I'm going to throw up greenery this time though. I've got the ability on that card to get some more water. We're up to 4 water right now. So I'm going to use greenery, and I'm going to put it again next to my city, which has already had 1 pop next to it. So now I've got 2 cities, both with at least 2, if not 3 greeneries next to them. So that'll pay off in the long term. Like that. I'm left with 15 points, and also the ability to build another greenery right here. So do I want to convert 8 plants? This is great. This is good stuff. Again, I'm going to put it around my city. Let's say here. I'll get 2 more greenery for that one. Starting to look a bit more hospitable now.
Yeah, it's getting there. We can tell by looking at the planet the atmosphere is not yet forming. It's too early, but we added some effects as the game progresses. You get a sense that the planet is kind of building an atmosphere around it a bit, and that some of the tint is going to be changing a bit. So you feel you are actually going towards a more hospitable planet than at first.
Having an impact on the visible atmosphere.
Yeah. Over generations and generations.
Sure. So I've got some standard actions I can still afford. I can increase my energy production if I want. The primary use of energy. What would you be using it for throughout the game? What's the benefit of having a bunch of energy beyond, certain cards require energy in order to be actioned, but what else do you use it for?
It's a resource mostly. So you might decide to go that way, and you might need it. So it's always a matter of balance, because you might go a route where, like, for example, some cards related to cities will require a lot of power and things like that, and if you're not playing those, or if you're doing the whole hippie route that you were doing before, just spreading greeneries all around, then you might not decide to invest there. But
sure.
And in the case of energy anyways, your leftovers are sort of transferred into heat at the end of a generation, so you might get a byproduct, so it's not bad to have it, obviously, like any resource. But it's a matter of choosing how you prioritize that.
Sure. So the cards I have at the minute, I'm not super keen on using any of those right now. So I'm going to go ahead and use the asteroid. Again, of course, I want to crash it. What do you take me for? So we'll see the temperature bump up over here, which is great. And I've got another addition. Now I'm closing the gap a little bit with my opponent here. It's 32 to 35 now, but bear in mind, with the boost that I'm going to get from all the greenery around these cities, things are maybe a little bit more even.
Yeah. And then you might start considering milestones and awards, because as the game progresses, then you get a sense of certain fields where, well, for milestones you could claim right out, or for awards you could get a sense of, okay, maybe I will end up first in this thing and then first in that other thing. So it's less of a gamble to actually start investing in those somewhere mid game, for example.
Absolutely. So he's gone ahead, because he's hit 35 first. He has gone and claimed the Terraformer 35. I should have grabbed the Gardener already. That slipped my mind. I knew I would forget, but I can. If they don't grab it already, I can do that next turn. That'll be the first thing to do. So I'm going to skip and end my turn here. And then we will be able to, I think, raise the temperature again next turn as well. Let's have a look. Do I? No, not quite. Okay. We're going to pass through, do the next generation, and then I'm going to try and claim that milestone if it will let me.
Yeah, and keep in mind for awards, they're built like whenever an award is set up to be checked, you give 5 points for the first, and then 2 points for the second. So in a 2-player game, you will be giving points away by default to the second player, but you're getting more.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, because he's the second and last. Yeah.
In this case, yeah.
Yeah, in this case, yeah.
So here's a nice simple card. Gain 1 plant for each city in play. So that's a place to conduct bio-research and experiments. So does that mean any city, whether it's a friendly city or enemy? So yeah, whatever, you'll get bonus resources. That's quite a useful one. I'm going to grab that.
Yeah, that's a good late game, like an easy conversion kind of card.
So I've grabbed the card, they're now grabbing their cards. Oh, raising the temperature created a new ocean. Where do I want to place it? There we go. Now it's my turn. Okay, let's have a look at the milestones. Has he already nabbed it? He hasn't. So here you can see the Gardener one is no longer grayed out, so I can grab that. Do I want to claim the Gardener milestone? I do. That's now mine, and it will also give me the option down here to raise the temperature. I'm going to use that as well because I have accumulated enough heat in order to do that. And once again, there you go. We're nearly at 2 degrees centigrade at the minute.
Wow.
I know, right?
Feels like home.
I'm starting to get a bit sweaty. Time to get the top off. And they've taken their actions, and now I've got 26 of my mega credits available. Let's have a look at the cards we have available. The plantation one's kind of nice. I think I might need... Do I need science? I need at least 2 science. So I need to look up here, and you can see via the circles which ones have the science. So I'm guessing science is represented by the nucleus with the surrounding molecules spinning around.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's a safe bet, isn't it?
It looks scientific for sure.
Absolutely. So we'll try and see if we can choose some cards which have those loitering in the background. I could throw that comet down. That's kind of fun. I can tell that we're drawing to a close, and I'm feeling like being a little bit aggro, lobbing comments at people.
Yeah, you should.
That's kind of fun. Yeah, alright, screw it, let's do this. So, we'll go over here, towing a comet. So I should gain oxygen and the water, but I'll also be able to place the ocean tile, gain 2 plants. Yes, we're going to do it. Go. So you can see, you get little animations, you get a little bit of feedback from the bottom there, and then I have the ability to throw down an ocean. Now, I don't get a point for the ocean being immediately next to my city, so I'm going to place it over.
They provide, cities next to oceans provide credits.
They give you additional cash. So I've already got 1 bit of water over here. So I'm gonna pop it down here instead. I'm going to expand this block of what's becoming an ocean now in the middle of the planet. Just kind of neat. It is nice to see it gradually start to, the long-lasting impact of what you're doing. It does feel like you're getting somewhere,
Yeah. I mean, you are terraforming Mars, so I guess they named the game properly. Yeah.
Let's look at the
so you should get 2 minute credits from placing basically anything next to an ocean.
Sweet. Okay, that's super handy. So I gain 1 plant for each city in play. Now, how many cities have we got at the moment? I think there's only 3. So it's 3. It'll give me 1 plant. But having looked at the bottom of the screen here, I already have enough plants to create another greenery, which I'm going to do. So I'm going to bosh this right here next to my city again. So there you go. I now have 4 surrounding one city and 3 surrounding the other. So not doing too badly. Got 2 more points for that. 37, 39. Now, we're not going to be able to finish the game within the hour allotted to us, but this is a game that does take a little while. It's not something you fire through in 20 minutes, is it?
No, but again, if we weren't talking and
Absolutely.
you could duel an AI like pretty quickly, or like another friend that's on the screen, like present in the game, you could have gone through the game already if that was your goal.
Yeah.
But obviously, like taking a bit more time reading the cards and making sure you know what you're doing is still a bit longer than probably like 50 minutes, 40 minutes. Yeah.
It does help. It does help. Now, I think I'm going to. I mean, just to show you guys what it looks like, the awards that we were discussing earlier, I'm going to choose the Landlord Award because I think I already do have the most tiles on the screen.
Yeah, that's a safe bet. Yeah.
And that is what they want me to do now. It's not actually. It's not highlighted at the minute. Do I have enough credits? I do have enough credits. Perhaps
yes.
I've got to end my turn. That's why I've.
That might just be.
I'm being overzealous because I've run out of turns. Action points.
Oh, is
rather.
it? Oh yeah. You need to end turn. Okay.
That's my fault.
Okay.
So here we go. I'm going to use the Fund the Landlord Award. So I'm effectively buying myself a statue that I should get if my bet proves accurate.
Yeah.
If not,
it seems fake. It seems very safe looking at the board right now. Yeah. This
otherwise,
is not a hard one.
If I mess it up, the enemy gets the award, and I've effectively bought them that plaque, which will grind my gears.
Yes. I mean, you did just give them 2 points, but again, you're getting 5 yourself, so that's that's fair. That's fair. It's fair business.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
So we've only got 2 mega credits left. I'm gonna go ahead and skip the turn here. See what they do next. So we said that we wouldn't put an actual release date on it as we're wrapping this up, but
right.
do you can hint generally at what kind of time frame the game might be appearing in the wild?
Yeah, I guess.
Can we pin it down to a year?
It's yeah, in the next century. It's slated to be coming out like in the second quarter.
Okay, so
so I mean, it is somewhat close.
Yeah, that's not far away.
I feel like calling it soon.
That's always the safe bet. It's what I did with the previous stream. You just say soon, and then everyone gets slightly frustrated. But they can't accuse you of being wrong, and you're not giving people unfair expectations.
Yeah, and if you look at the game, I mean, obviously, not everything is in right now, and we made this particular build because we're showing the game up at the PAX East.
Sure.
This week in Boston, so people will be able to have a look at that. But it's still, I mean, it's coming along nicely, and we need to put some more cards and have all the modes working. But it's mostly polished from now on. So making sure every animations are nice, like all the little visuals, the impact whenever you're playing, anything about understanding the game, the first user experience, things like that, right? But it's still. I feel like it's coming along nicely. I mean, obviously, would I say otherwise? But I do feel like to be honest, but I do feel like that everyone on the team has been like building this. Like, I like the fact that you feel like it's a board game and you recognize that, but to me it feels different. It feels like it has this little gem, little polish on it.
Well, I was surprised,
and I like that
to find out that it was pre-alpha. I mean, we preview a lot of stuff. I work mainly with mobile games over on Pocket Gamer and AppSpy, which is where I'm usually based. So we've been doing it a while, and you see a lot of games in test flight or alpha or whatever. And
sure,
I was surprised when you said it was that we're only in pre-alpha. We're not even in alpha yet, because it's a smart-looking thing. I was surprised it looks as slick as it does.
Correct. I agree with you. I mean, I feel like everyone on the team has been they're not being pulling punches on this one, and
no.
And we had the extra challenge, and I just want to mention it as some of the last points that the game is coming out for mobile too, and it's pretty much what you see right now. But there's a UX job to move some of the menus within the sub-menus and move things around a bit to make it like sort of legible. But even on mobile, it feels like the same game, and it has the same level of polish. So I'm really happy with that too.
It's always the tricky thing on mobile, because you're compressing things down to such a degree, because even though you have technically the same on a mobile phone, you have the same real estate in terms of the layout, 16 by 9
Yeah.
and everything, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
that much smaller that if you just shrunk it down, it becomes illegible. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
need to start-
and the human factor on mobile is how big your thumb is in the end,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Or
It
maybe
makes
your finger if you're doing this, but it changes everything, like the way you click around the tooltips and whatnot. So
Yep.
we're doing a lot of work to make it working well on mobile, and I think that's. But it was thought of from the get go. So we built a system to make it sort of scalable and make it work nicely on all platforms, and I think it's gonna be great.
Well, a lot of the tactical games, I find the strategy stuff does port very well over onto mobile, because when you're using point-and-click interfaces like this, you can just directly, in some cases, one-to-one, just go, well, you just hit it with your finger, job done.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about floating joysticks or floating buttons or anything. It just
No, that's it.
transfers. It's just a case of making sure everything's readable on the smaller screen, and that usually
Yes.
means, like you say, sub-menus. You have to click in and then something whoop, and then you can choose from that. So it gets a little bit more...
Yeah.
The folders go a little bit deeper, if you like, in the chain.
Yeah. It's a big UX job, but for sure, it's a good game for that kind of platform.
Absolutely. So I'm going to have to bank these awards that will be coming in the future. I assume I'm going to get this. I can become the mayor. I've got at least 3 tile cities. I built a new city. See, you've rubbed off on me a little bit here. I've become this
You see, you like them, huh?
entrepreneur landlord dude. It's quite good. So, bam. Do I want to claim the mayor milestone? Yes, I do. Sweet.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
that
you
good
are a
for you.
mayor, terraformer, gardener.
I am. I'm officially now the mayor of Mars.
Yeah. Hey,
That's how I
pretty good.
roll. I think that's a perfect
Yeah.
place to leave it, in fact. Look at this. Look at this
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
I've got my water. I've got my cities.
Yeah, I can safely say that you would win this.
You reckon? Oh, God. I'll
Yeah,
take that.
unless you really screw up in the coming turns, I think you would. So,
Okay.
and of course, I like to think that it's because of the great city planning that you did.
Naturally, it's because I had my you with your hard hat on the side there going,
Yeah.
a couple more cities
More,
would be good.
yeah,
I think you're
more
absolutely
luxury
right.
apartments. Yeah.
Well, you can see they're all up and running now. And if you want to follow more about this game, if you want to keep your eyes on it, obviously Asmodee, as their site, they have all information up on it. There is also a Facebook page you can go to, Terraforming Mars, over on Facebook. Obviously, you can throw it into the search engine and just you'll be able to find it on Facebook, but also we've put links immediately below this window, so you can add it to your wish list on Steam if you want to go ahead and do that, or you can just click through to the Facebook page, follow that, and that will keep you updated with all the information about the game itself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll release more information nearer the time when there is going to be an actual release for the game, an actual date.
Yeah, and we'll have a sort of a pre-release thing going on at some point, and we'll communicate more strongly on that like later on. But you can follow the game, like I was saying. We have it at PAX, and it's gonna start like emerging out of the studio, I guess. And but yeah, having the wish list on Steam makes things easier for sure.
Gotcha. All right, then I'm going to end the turn here, and with that, we will also end the stream. So thank you all for watching. I realise we've been sort of talking to one another rather than interacting loads with the chat there, so my apologies for that, but there is kind of a lot to get through. Also, this stream will be able to be rewatched. We are going to have it archived and up on Twitch itself, just like the video that we did beforehand. So if you came in halfway through and you weren't sure, by all means go and watch the full thing and pass it on to people who you think might be interested in Terraforming Mars in future. So thank you all for watching. Thank you, Alexis, for joining me today.
Sure thing, man.
Fantastic.
Pleasure's mine.
And
I'm just looking forward for you guys to get your hands on the final game.
as am I. So with any luck, we'll be in touch very soon with more streaming stuff, more stuff from Asmodee, and more stuff from Terraforming Mars. So thank you all for watching. See you next time.